Get connected, Fitchburg. We're launching Fitchburg Connect, the city's new monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Our first edition is live now. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
For the Finance Committee meeting for May 12, 2026 at 5:35 p.m. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the April 28th meeting.
I move approval.
Motion approved made by Alder Gerhardt. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is public appearances for non-agenda items. We have no one in chambers and no one on Zoom, so we will move on to the Finance Director report.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to talk about the document that's included in the packet. This is our annual report on the ARPA money that we received. As of March 31st, 2026, which is the reporting date, we had spent all of the grant proceeds themselves. So that report is done. We still have to close out, so I'll be filing another one next year and possibly the year after, depending on how quickly they start closing out these grants. But the city does still have the interest that we earned on the ARPA money still in our accounts. All of it is being spent on those road projects that are in the qualified census tracts. Tim says that we'll get that done this year. So we should be able to close that out on the city side as well this year. So I'll pause in case there's questions.
Hey, Gabrielle.
How much interest did we generate?
I'd have to go back and look, but it was quite a bit. I will find out.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. One of the questions that came up at the last meeting in the Finance Director's report on the February Treasurer's report was about the salaries and wages. And the question was why we were already at 37% spend when we were only 2 months into the year at that point. That 37% that was referenced, that wasn't the percent of budget. That was how much of the total amount we spent was on wages versus, say, operating supplies versus professional services. So just a misunderstanding of that percentage. I did look at kind of where we're at, and we're in overall in the general fund, we are less than what percentage we're at through now, which is kind of what I would have expected. Other things, CIP, we are in the heat of that. The mayor's proposed CIP comes out on June 4th. So you'll be seeing that pretty soon. We're also working on the TID 17 amendment. The Joint Review Board has to meet twice to approve this. The first meeting is happening on May 19th, and then it'll go to council, and then it'll come back to the Joint Review for final approval on June 24th. Since we're already getting the Joint Review Board together, we're also going to do our required annual meeting at that time. So we have lots of flexibility on when we do it, but since we're already together, let's just take care of it. So those annual reports I'm working on wrapping up, and then we'll go to the June meeting, and then I always put those reports on the Finance Committee packet once they're done too. We're also working on filing a water rate case, simplified rate case. So if you remember, we tried to do that last year, but the rates had to be in place not for a rolling year, but for a calendar year. So we plan to do that now. Looking at our 2025, our rate of return was 3.8% when it should be 6.2%. So very clearly qualify for that rate increase. It should be a 3% kind of across the board increase that gets approved by the PSC. And then looking at the other two utilities, they also took some losses in 25. So we'll be looking at kind of what we should be doing from a rate perspective there too in the near future. I'll keep you guys posted as we kind of move along that process and make those decisions. I wanted to at least give you a heads up. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Misty? Okay, we will move on to review of bills. First item is a detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above. This is back April 1st through April 30th, 2026, totaling $2,260,787.26.
Can I actually jump in on this one before we talk about questions?
Yeah, please.
This was one of the reports that you had asked for in our discussion last time. So we are doing it for a full month for this time. Going forward, we'll do it each meeting instead, just because it aligns better from an operational standpoint. So you'll see that coming back. And then I did only do it for checks, hoping that that was sufficient. Did not do it for ACH payments and did not do it for P-card, because if you recall, those were very short reports. So I'd like to still save that time if it's not something that's high priority for you guys, but definitely can continue or go back to doing the checks that were 10,000 and above.
Great, thank you.
Sounds
Questions?
reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Perfect.
Any questions on those?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Check 130573 to the City of Madison Treasurer for street lighting and traffic signals. If you don't know off the top of your head, I know somebody who might.
Yeah, Ross, I was going to ask you anyways. So that would be,
Check
it's the
date was
quarterly
April
charge.
23rd.
so it's,
It was about $20,000.
Yeah, and it's looks like 3 sets of payments here, 3 payments, you know, each one with a street lighting and a traffic signal component.
Yes, so we got several invoices late from the City of Madison from 2025. We get charged quarterly for our traffic signal and streetlight maintenance that the City of Madison performs for us. And like I said, we got several invoices late. They may have come to the city, but they didn't come to Public Works. And ideally, we would pay those all in 2025, but we carried over all of the money that we had not spent because we hadn't been invoiced. We carried it all over into 2026 and paid those invoices with that money, basically. And since then, we've talked with Misty and put into place reminders that if we don't get a quarterly invoice from the City of Madison or Metro Transit or anybody who invoices us quarterly, we'll reach out and ask for those invoices and not just assume they're being very nice and not charging us any money.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I wasn't sure that whether that was for some unexpected maintenance or what, but yeah, all right.
No, it's basically if we have a traffic signal get hit by a car or if there's just general maintenance, they just send that bill to us quarterly. So, and that was just several of them built up.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other questions, we will move on to item B, detailed review of all checks issued, checks 130541 through 130593, April 16th through the 30th, 2026, totaling $1,463,255.27. Comments or questions? No? All right, detailed review of all ACH payments, April 1st through the 30th, 2026, totaling $771,565.27. Comments or questions? All right, item D, detailed review of all open purchase orders as of April 30th, 2026. Missy, do you want to give a little overview here?
yes, please. So this is as of April 30th. So the plan is we will provide this the first meeting after the month ends for the month before. These are all of the purchase orders or pre-approvals, however you want to call them, that are open. They are sorted by vendor name, and the PO amount is kind of that original amount that was authorized. The open amount is how much is left, and then you can see the description, the GL account number, that type of a thing too. I could not filter this to be just things that you may have seen in the past because it would look at line by line as opposed to the total, which I don't think was what you were looking for. So it is just all of the open pre-approvals as of April 2026. You'll notice there are some that are old on there. Sometimes we keep things open because we'll get invoices kind of later, especially the DOT has a tendency to send us $3 invoices 4 years later. So you'll see some that are really old that we're keeping open. And then there's some that you might see various lines that show P-card payments because the P-card system doesn't mesh with the accounting records. That's how we have to kind of post those payments against the PO. So that's why that one looks a little bit weird as well. So open to feedback if you do find this helpful. If you don't find it helpful, if you want it to look a little different, we can see what we can do.
Question? Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of this is new, so at least for the moment I find it useful. I did have questions on 4 POs. I was a little surprised that the Allison Brunette PO is, the full amount is still open. Are we expecting that?
So that's just the outstanding amount as of this point. So it's one of those, again, that we just are kind of keeping open until we know for sure that it's completely gone. And then we could close that PO if we get direction from the department that's holding it.
Yeah, I was just surprised that the full amount of the full amount is still open rather than
It's
partially
just for
paid.
that line, though. So the
that
change
was just
order
one line
2.
item.
Yep.
Okay.
So any line on the PO that's been closed will not show up on this report.
So when it says PO amount, it really means PO line item amount.
Correct.
Okay. What is Bradford Systems?
Bradford Systems.
There's a line that just says
is something
project, but-
for
yeah.
the police facility.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something for that new building.
I couldn't glean any information out of the description there.
I can find out and report back.
Don't quote me on this, but it may be lockers. For some reason, that is the system or the manufacturer of the lockers. And I think didn't we do a PO to get those ordered right at the end of the year because of some cost savings? If I recall correctly, they were holding a price through the end of the year. So I'm wondering if that's now we're paying that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I will say based on the dollar amount, so we did issue the PO in 2025, and based on this dollar amount, it would have gone to council. So you guys have seen it before. I just don't remember specifically what it was.
There's still line items open from the 2022 Strand Associates solar analysis for the lift station and some unnamed water facility. I'm curious to know the status of that and who would be the best person to update us on whether we might ever get solar at those locations and also why the PO might still be open.
I can find out. We'll get back to you next time.
And my last question was about the 2017-2018 Wisconsin DOT Verona Road utility improvements, and you said that the DOT is famous for sending invoices far in the future.
And literally for dollars and or even cents. I think the smallest one I've ever seen in my career is 56 cents. So
Well worth the...
they go negative sometimes? That's fantastic. Mm-hmm.
They charged us for.
Yeah.
Because they're not just going to send us a check.
So just as I'm reading this, I just want to make sure. So like the H&I grants are a good example for this year. So that'll just kind of be on this report as we go. And then like we're kind of paying out a lot of the H&I grants from last year right now. And so that'll kind of just sit on this report until we start paying them out in next year.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll fall off this report once the line is closed. So if we pay it in full, the line is automatically closed. Or if we do a partial payment, but the department indicates to us that we should close it, then it would fall off this report at that point too.
Is there a way to see if payments were applied to these during the time period of the report?
So I can't restrict it just to that time period.
Okay.
So I could add a column for the amounts that were charged, but it's really just
It's
the
just gonna
difference
be the
between
difference.
those two
Yeah. Okay.
columns.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And then I just, for the sake of everybody, so all of the checks that we cut are still included on all those other reports. So it's not like the information isn't available. It's just trying to provide it in the way that you want to see it.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for putting this together.
And so would you guys like to see this every month or every quarter, or?
Yeah, I mean, let's try it for a while and see how it goes. If we decide it's not really working, then we can adjust.
Okay.
Gauge the amount of effort. Would you rather just do this quarterly?
So quarterly is easier, especially since, as we just noted, the bulk of it's going to be pretty the same month
Yeah.
after month. So I think it'd be harder for you to kind of pick out what's changed. And then, yes, effort, of course, is always a concern. So doing it quarterly would be preferred, but happy to do whatever the committee requires.
Yeah, I think that less frequency
that
makes
seems-
sense because
Sure.
it is going to be the same. We could have this report in 2 weeks and have it be exactly the same as this one, with or maybe like a slightly different dollar amount on one of them. But I could see. I really do like the report, though. I think it's interesting to see what's open, but I could see the less frequency being justified on this one.
Yeah, quarterly seems
And-
fine.
Okay.
So I guess quarterly, however, is convenient for you, whether that means first meeting in July, if it, like end of March, June, September, whatever you like,
Yeah.
as long as it's every 3 months.
Yeah, whatever
I guess.
3-month period is easiest. Yeah.
We'll probably do it calendar quarter. That tends to
Okay.
be the easiest to remember. But like, we often don't have the first meeting in July, so you'll get it the second meeting
Sure.
in July. End of year, we might ask for a little bit extra time just as things come through kind of the system. So if you're willing to be flexible with me, we'll definitely make sure that we get you what you need.
All right.
All right. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6, action items. We'll start with Resolution R9726, amending the 2026 Tax Increment District TID number 10 and capital projects fund budgets for bus rapid transit.
I move approval.
Motion approved by Alder Gerhart. Ross, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go through the reasons we are asking for this amendment, and then I'll leave all of the actual financial questions to Misty. North-South Bus Rapid Transit Project, I think, as you all know, is a joint project between City of Madison and City of Fitchburg, and will cost approximately $170 million. It's funded by the Small Starts Grant Program. The project is currently at 60% design, undergoing NEPA approval, and we are scheduled for a risk workshop from May 19th through the 21st, which is a condition of the Small Starts Grant. If that grant is awarded, 70% of the project will be funded by the federal government, and 30% of the funding will be locally provided by the cities of Fitchburg and Madison. The US DOT for that Small Starts Grant Program requires the local funding to be allocated before they will award the federal funds. And that risk workshop step that I mentioned is where the federal government, the FTA, Federal Transit Authority, determines their risk factors with funding a project. So if our local funding is not allocated for the risk workshop, that will be flagged by the FTA as a major risk. So for context, for our local share, in 2025, Fitchburg allocated $1.5 million for this project. That estimate of $1.5 million was based on an 80% federal funding share and 20% local funding share. And the pre-construction cost estimates for East-West BRT. Since that time, the federal funding share has been reduced to 70%, and the new construction estimates are based off of the actual construction costs of East-West BRT. So that 10% reduction in the federal share accounts for about $2 million, and then those construction cost differences account for about $2.5 million. Of the 33 BRT stations on the route, 4.5 of them will be owned by Fitchburg, McKee, Cahill, Maine, High Ridge, Post Road, and half of the Greenway Cross station. The McKee and Cahill, Maine stations are single platform stations. McKee will be northbound only, since it's the endpoint of the route. And then Cahill Main is a center running station because of the constrained nature of that site. The High Ridge, Post, and Greenway Cross stations that are all on Fish Hatchery Road will have 2 platforms. They'll be side running, which was one of our cost saving measures once we got the new construction cost estimates. The single stations in the center of the roadway are actually more expensive to build on Fish Hatchery Road because we have to reconstruct more of the roadway. So with all of those assumptions, the cost of the Fitchburg portion of the project will be about $17 million. Assuming 70% federal funding, Fitchburg is responsible for $5.7 million for our 30% local share, and then that assumes 5% inflation and a 2028 construction year. So accounting for that $1.5 million that was previously allocated in the 2025 CIP, Fitchburg will require $4.2 million additional dollars to satisfy the US DOT funding requirements. So with that, I will leave the rest of it to Misty.
So as Ross mentioned, included in the original estimate was the 1.5 million, which was included in the TID 10 project plan. Half of it was within the boundaries and half of it was within the half mile. One of the big things to note on this resolution is that it is dependent on future joint review board action to authorize the additional costs within the half mile. So whenever I have enough flexibility within the plan and the cash and all of that stuff to make this work, but because a portion of it is within half mile and there are very strict requirements on those half mile costs, and the cost is going from $750,000 to 2.5 million. I thought that was material and something that we'd want to share with the Joint Review Board and get their blessing on it. So we do have that Joint Review Board meeting coming up in June that I mentioned with the TID annual reports. So we'll add it as an agenda item there. And we suspect that if council approves this tonight, that the Joint Review Board will allow it. But it is kind of another hurdle procedure-wise that we'll have to do. If for whatever reason Joint Review Board doesn't approve it, then I'd be coming back to you guys for another budget amendment to see how we want to pay for that piece instead.
Does that Joint Review Board affect the risk assessment situation?
It will, because our local funding will not be completely allocated at the time of the risk workshop. But I think we can talk to the FTA and say we will be either funding this through the TID or going back to council for funding this in a different method. So it's not like we're completely reliant on the Joint Review Board.
One kind of other way to say it would be, with this resolution, I'm getting permission to borrow for the full amount of the project. The question that comes in that we need the Joint Review Board buy-in is who's going to pay that borrowing back. Can I charge it to the TID or does it have to come out of property taxes? So the authority to actually do the borrowing, which is the funding that I think the feds care about the most, will be in place with this resolution.
Other questions? Bill?
I was just looking at the line item cost there, and the one that caught my eye was finance charges. We're responsible for about 10% of the overall project, but 17% of the finance charges. Do we have any idea what goes into that calculation?
I can follow up on that.
My other question about cost is we're the end of the line for the BRT, obviously, so we're going to have the charging stations and then the restrooms as well for the bus drivers, which is very important. But since that's not just for Fitchburg, that's for the entire line, is that a cost shared with City of Madison?
Yes, it is. So that 4.5 stations that Fitchburg will be responsible for is how we come up with the prorated ratio for those type of costs. So 4.5 stations divided by the 35 total stations gives us our portion of the shared costs, which is, I believe, that 17% that you're talking about, Bill.
Well, that's actually 9. So that one worked out pretty easy to figure, right? Because there's 9 stations already in existence, which means there's 24 outstanding, and we've got 4.5, and they've got 24 million and 4.5 million. So that math, is easy to see, and that actually works out to 19%, but that's as expected, I guess. I guess one other point in the packet materials, it didn't explicitly say anything about the additional infrastructure at the southern terminus, but it also didn't explicitly show the signalization that's going to happen at High Ridge Trail.
Correct. So the point in the plans that we're at 60%, we don't have that signal plan yet. That will be created with the 90% plans. And the change from center running stations on Fish Hatchery to side running stations also kind of put those pieces of the plan set at different points because we changed that so late in the project. So the Fish Hatchery road plans are really more like at 30%, and they'll be brought up to speed with the rest of the plan set once we get to 90%.
My question was also about stations. So when we switched to side running, that basically saved us $8 million, according to what's in here. Is that right? So would that have been added, I assume, all to station stops terminals, or would that have gotten divided up amongst many of these categories?
That would have been divided up between a lot of these categories, like the site work and special conditions, the guideway line would have changed, and then property acquisition probably would have gone down. But yeah, it would have been divided up between a few different items. Most of it would have been in the station stops and terminals, though. Okay. And the site work. The site work would have been a lot higher.
Oh, that's why it's more expensive, because of how much reconstruction we're doing if we do that. Okay.
Correct. Because the medians are not wide enough to fit these stations as they are right now.
Okay. And just a question for Missy, the TID is healthy enough to handle this going forward?
So we would borrow for it and pay it off over many years. So if we factor that in and other new development that we hope is coming to the corridor, I believe it's capable to do that.
Any other questions? All right, we can vote. All those in favor of resolution R9726, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is resolution R10526, approving a contract for AMI meter software upgrade.
I move approval.
Motion approved by Alder Gerhardt.
I'll take this one to start. So AMI is the advanced metering system. So it's the software that we use to bring in the water meter readings into the billing software. And it's being sunsetted really soon. So we are proposing to upgrade to the new version, which is about the same cost, if not a little bit less than what we're currently paying kind of each year going forward. And we do have enough funds to pay for the one-time cost as well.
All right. Any comments or questions? Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I had gone down a bit of a rabbit hole in the Board of Public Works meeting. So the software is owned by Xylem, is the Xylem affiliates. And I looked at their privacy policy, and it says Xylem may disclose personal information to their affiliates and social media platforms. There is no information on how they retain personal information, just a placeholder in the document that says further information here. And then I guess I don't know what they mean when they say personal information. Is the city of Fitchburg their customer, or are the residents of the city of Fitchburg their customers? So nobody has talked to you, either of you, about that since
Nope.
Board of Public Works? Okay.
I'm happy to look into those questions. I'll say the software is being sunsetted next month.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a very critical part of our utility billing process in
Right.
order to get accurate bills out to everybody. I guess I don't know what to say to that. I definitely don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Okay. It just, giving them carte blanche to, like, say, a blast on social media. Gabriella Gerhardt's water usage is X. Just made me a little nervous.
It does say in the contract, there is a clause that says customer data means solely usage data collected by the field devices. So maybe
There's one device at every address.
yeah, I mean, but usage data I assume, just mean
Number
the
of
actual
gallons.
physical numbers that are being collected, not necessarily address. I don't know. I am
Okay.
famously not a lawyer.
Misty, does the the meter itself is assigned to a parcel, correct?
Correct.
And not to a specific person?
So in our billing data, obviously they are connected.
The parcel obviously would be assigned to a specific person.
Yeah. But we do take this usage data from this software, we import it into our billing software, which is connected to our accounting software, and that's where the kind of customer stuff is all located. I don't know for sure, though, what information is all there. Again, I'm happy to have somebody from the finance team come and answer some questions about this software in particular. This is not something that I'm well versed in.
The purchase order was just like, there was a lot of line items. This is just a 10-year contract, is that correct? And it's for
Correct.
both the water and the sewer
Correct.
utilities, so there's separate charges for each.
Yep.
So the total cost over 10 years is $326,000 and change.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
And I'll note that cost, especially over the 10 years, is significantly less than hiring a person to go to each one of those houses and get what the meter read is, which is what, when I first started in government is what we did. We had a meter reader that went out to each one of those and got a manual reading each time. So
Wow.
while it is a high dollar amount, it's much more cost effective than other options.
Yeah, and over 10 years, that's much
Yeah.
more minimal per year than
Absolutely.
And surprisingly cheaper than the current software too. So like
What
you
was
said,
that?
you said it was cheaper than the current software that we're using slightly.
I think
No.
it's for sure in the ballpark. I feel like I heard that it was a little bit less, but I guess don't quote me on that. It's definitely in the ballpark.
And I guess one other thing to note, there are a lot of line items, and it's 2026 through 2035 or whatever. And 2026 has the full year listed, like the charge for a full year, even though we're only going to be on it for half the year. Tracy Foss said she was going to work with the company to prorate that. Yeah. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay.
And if there's no other questions, we can vote. All those in favor of resolution R 10526, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is announcements. Our next finance meeting will be May 26th. And with that, I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Alder Gerhart. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:07 PM.